The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
That's not tough on crime. That's stupid on crime.
Today on Politics Now, District Attorney candidate Robert Langford lays out his plans for the office and talks about the charges flying back and forth on television.
One of the first things I'm going to do when I'm elected is to expand the Ombudsman Office for sexual violence.
And Attorney General candidate Aaron Ford tells us what he would do if he's elected.
By providing more access, we're giving more opportunity for eligible registered voters to get out and vote.
And some changes and where you'll go to vote on Election Day this year. I'll tell you what the county hopes to accomplish with voting centers.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
Well, the men who enforce the laws are some of the most important in Nevada. So in this primary election edition of Politics Now, we wanted to talk about a couple of races that will decide Nevada's top lawmen. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Sebelius. Patrick Walker's on vacation this week. First up, the race for Clark County District Attorney. Only Democrats get to decide this one because no Republicans filed for the office. The only two candidates are incumbent Steve Wolfson and defense attorney Robert Langford. Wolfson's declined 2 invitations to appear on Politics Now, but Langford sat down with me this week to talk about the race. In terms of debates or joint appearances with your opponent, have you met your opponent anywhere on the campaign trail?
No, we've asked and he has refused. I believe several other news outlets have asked and he has refused. That's what I've been told. So I would love to.
There was a story in the Review Journal today that said you owe $66,145 in back taxes over the past 5 years. You made tax payments, but it's not the full payments. Address that for a second. How did that come about, and
sure.
And what's behind all that?
Sure. Well, you know, I suffered from the economic downturn like everybody else did, and as a result of that, when I was transitioning from one law firm to another, got behind it again. I am paying those back. And I'm not sure if that number is actually accurate. I don't dispute that I've at least owed that at some point. But you know what? I didn't do anything immoral. I didn't do anything illegal, obviously. And you know, I think that story was lobbied to the Review Journal, and I believe that wholeheartely. And you know, it speaks to the desperation at this point of the incumbent, who recognizes that I have some terrific people endorsing me, that I've got people out working. I think that they're trying to make a last-ditch effort to color me as a person unqualified.
Some people would say, you know, I can see the Plan Action Fund, because they're Nevadans and they are familiar with the issues and the people involved. But when you have these out-of-state groups, out-of-state people, like the widow of Steve Jobs, by the way, for who was the head of Apple Computer, people say, well, now why would they care about a district attorney's race in Clark County, Nevada? It's not even in their state.
Because across the country, people recognize that mass incarceration is eroding the very fabric of our society. It really is. It's the largest portion of, you know, criminal justice is the largest portion of the Clark County budget. If you take into account law enforcement and the district attorney's office, the court system, we spend more money on this than anything else. And it's money poorly spent if our model is leading us to mass incarceration. So across the country, they realize that a lot of people have an interest in the old model. And a lot of people don't want to have a change. They're susceptible to the, oh, I'm tough on crime rhetoric. And so it is difficult oftentimes for somebody to come in and say, you know, we need to change this system. We need to do something that's different. And that's a philosophy that is across the country. And so they've recognized the ACLU is another group that recognizes that we have to support progressive candidates who might not otherwise be able to get the support, and this is a classic race.
Now, are you saying that you're not going to be tough on crime, or what are you saying by that? Because because I think D.A. Wolfson would definitely stand up and say, I will be tough on crime, and I have been tough on crime. That's my record.
Sure. And so anybody can say that they're tough on crime and say the only metric for judging that I want to use is the number of arrests, prosecutions, and the number of years that we put people in prison. That's not tough on crime. That's stupid on crime. I'm saying we need to absolutely keep vicious, violent criminals off the street and repeat offenders off the street, and we need to keep our society safe. But I'm also saying that model of just putting people in prison for as long as we can and starting with going to jail on the very first time you're arrested, that does not make us safe. We are less safe with the current system that we have. And until we break out of that, I'm just going to be tough on crime, but this is the only thing I'm going to judge that on. We're going to be stuck with being less safe.
Well, Langford's garnered a couple of high-profile endorsements that could help him on Tuesday. That includes the two largest unions in the state. The rest of our interview is on LasVegasNow.com. Look for political news under the News tab. Well, one other factor that could help Langford is the high Democratic turnout in early voting. That could mean more union members and progressives, both of whom back Langford. They've been turning out early in large numbers. Clark County Registrar of Voters Joe Gloria says voters have been breaking records every single day of early voting. Gloria says the high-profile races are what's driving voters to the polls. As of Thursday, Democrats accounted for 49% of the early and absentee balloting in Clark County, while Republicans were just 36.6%. The rest were nonpartisan voters. Now, statewide, the overall turnout of early and mail voting stood at 10.44%, with Democrats at 46% and Republicans at 42%. But in raw numbers, Democrats only had about a 6,000 voter lead over the GOP. Well, there's a big change coming for voters on Election Day, one that might take a little getting used to. It's an effort to make voting more convenient for people who choose to go to the polls on Election Day instead of early voting, like yours truly. For the first time this year, voters will be able to cast a ballot at any one of the 172 voting centers scattered throughout the county. That means any voter can vote at any vote center anywhere in Clark County. Joe Gloria is the County Registrar of Voters.
For all voters, instead of one polling place, they'll have 172 locations throughout the county to go and vote. From Mesquite to Lapland, Indian Springs to Sandy Valley. It won't matter what polling place they're in, they'll have their ballot available.
Now, Gloria says the sample ballot includes a map with early voting centers on it so voters can find one close to where they live, work, or wherever they're going to be on Election Day. Some things will be a little bit different, however. Voters will sign in on an iPad-type tablet instead of in a paper polling book. And although they'll still cast ballots on touchscreen machines and be able to print a paper receipt, they will be casting those votes on brand new voting machines. Now, if you don't have your sample ballot, you can still find the location of the nearest vote center on the county's website. And if you use your smartphone, you can locate the voting center that's nearest to you. Gloria says he hopes the change is going to increase voter participation.
Well, we hope so. By providing more access, we're giving more opportunity for eligible registered voters to get out and vote. So I'm hoping it turns out to be true.
Now, Gloria says voting centers were used in the off-year municipal elections of 2017, but this is the first time they'll be used countywide. Now, traditionally, more people vote in early voting than wait to vote on Election Day, so we'll see if Tuesday if voting centers change that dynamic. Well, coming up, we dig into the race for Attorney General.
Mr. Robertson intends it as an insult to me. He intends it as an insult to the Democrats in the legislature, but it truly insults those victims of crime.
Democratic candidate Aaron Ford defends himself against accusations that he is pro-felon. That's next on Politics Now.